The fluorescent lights of the Federal Detention Center buzz like trapped insects above my head. Each step I take down this corridor echoes, metal on concrete, heartbeat on silence. The guard beside me doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. We both know why I'm here. The air tastes like industrial cleaner and desperation. How many women have walked these halls to see men who destroyed themselves? How many have carried secrets that could shatter what's left? I carry mine like a knife pressed against my ribs. They've moved him to a private room for this meeting. Security protocol, they said. But I know the real reason. They expect an explosion. They've seen his file. They know what he's capable of, even in chains. What they don't know is what I'm capable of. The door opens, and there he is. Dante Salvatore sits at a metal table, wrists cuffed to a chain that runs through a bolt in the floor. He's wearing standard issue orange, but somehow he makes it look like a tailored suit. His dark hair is longer now, touching his collar. His jaw is shadowed with stubble that makes him look dangerous and devastatingly beautiful. But it's his eyes that stop my breath. Those winter gray eyes that once looked at me like I was salvation. Like I was the only thing between him and the darkness he was born into. Now they look at me like I'm the darkness itself. "Dr. Morelli," he says. His voice is rough, controlled. A match held too close to gasoline. "Or should I call you something else now?" I close the door behind me. The click of the lock feels final. "Dante." "No." He leans forward as far as the chains allow. "You don't get to say my name anymore. Not like that. Not like you have the right." The guard steps forward, but I raise my hand. "It's fine. Give us the room." "Ma'am, I can't." "5 minutes. I'll be fine." The guard looks between us, weighs his options, and finally nods. "I'll be right outside." The door closes. We're alone. Dante watches me with an intensity that makes my skin feel too tight. "So, they finally let you visit. How generous of the Federal Bureau of Investigation." I don't sit. I can't. If I lower myself to his level, I'll break. "I needed to see you." "Needed?" He laughs, but there's no humor in it. "You needed a lot of things from me, didn't you, Dr. Morelli? Information, access, trust. My goddamn heart on a platter while you carved it up for evidence. That's not— Don't." His voice cracks like a whip. "Don't you dare tell me what it wasn't. I've had 6 weeks in this cage to figure out exactly what it was. 6 weeks of looking back at every conversation, every touch, every moment I thought we were—" He stops, swallows. "Every moment I was too blind to see." The fluorescent lights flicker. In that strobe of darkness and light, I see it all. His hand on my lower back, guiding me through a crowded restaurant. His voice at 3 a.m., rough with exhaustion, telling me about his sister. His eyes when he said he loved me, like he was falling off a cliff and hoping I'd catch him. The way he looked at me when they dragged him away in handcuffs, searching for me in the chaos, calling my name. "Why did you come here, Isabella?" The way he says my name, my real name, makes me flinch. To gloat? To make sure the monster is properly caged? To check that your brilliant undercover operation didn't leave any loose ends? To tell you the truth. The truth. He sits back, chains rattling. "That's rich. You wouldn't know the truth if it was the only thing you had left. But I do. God help me, I do. Because the truth is standing in this room, looking at a man I destroyed, a man I love, and knowing that both things can be real at the same time. The truth is, I came here knowing exactly what would happen, knowing what I would have to do, what I would have to say, and knowing that when I leave this room, nothing will ever be the same." "Dante," I say quietly, "I need you to listen to me. I need you to understand." "No." He stands abruptly, the chain snapping taut. You need. What about what I needed, Isabella? I needed one real thing in my entire fucked up life. One person who saw me and didn't see the last name or the empire or the blood. I thought that person was you. I thought—" His voice breaks. "Christ, I thought you were different." The pain in his voice is a living thing. It fills the room like smoke. And I realize, this is the moment. This is why I came. Not for closure, not for confession, but for the ending we both deserve, even if neither of us wants it. I step forward, close enough to touch, close enough to feel the heat of his rage and his heartbreak. close enough to see the exact moment his anger shifts into something else. Something raw and wounded and unbearably human. "You're right," I whisper. "I'm not different. I'm worse." And then, "But no, not yet. You need to understand how we got here. How a woman who was trained to lie for her country fell in love with the one man she was supposed to destroy. How a man who trusted no one gave his whole heart to the person who would betray him. You need to understand the beginning before you can bear the end. So let me take you back. Let me show you how we fell." Part 1. The Consultant. Chapter 1. 3 months earlier. The first time I saw Dante Salvatore in person, he was standing in an interrogation room at the Federal Building in Lower Manhattan, staring out a window at the city he once owned. I'd seen his photograph 100 times. Surveillance photos, background checks, the grainy footage from the night of his arrest. But photographs lie. They flatten. They make dangerous men look manageable. Dante Salvatore was not manageable. He stood with his hands in his pockets, perfectly still, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than my car. His posture was relaxed, almost casual, but I'd studied body language long enough to recognize a predator at rest. Every line of him hummed with controlled power. Special Agent Marcus Webb stood beside me in the observation room, arms crossed over his barrel chest. "That's him. The crown prince of the Salvatore crime family. 5 years we've been building this case. 5 years of wiretaps and informants and dead ends. And now we finally have him." "Do you?" I asked. Marcus shot me a look. "The evidence is solid. RICO charges, money laundering, conspiracy. He's looking at 30 to life. Then why am I here? Because he won't talk. Not to us. Not to his lawyers. Not to anyone. He just stands there looking out windows like he's somewhere else." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You're the best behavioral analyst the Bureau has. Your psych profile of the Moretti family led to 3 convictions. The director thinks you can get inside his head." I studied Dante through the two-way glass. Even from here, I could feel the weight of his presence. The room seemed to orbit around him. "What makes you think he'll talk to me?" "Because you're not law enforcement, not officially. You're Dr. Isabella Morelli, consulting psychologist specializing in criminal behavior and organizational dynamics. You're here to evaluate whether he's competent to stand trial. He doesn't have to see you as the enemy." "Except I am the enemy." Marcus smiled grimly. "Yeah, but he doesn't need to know that. Not yet." I looked back at Dante. He'd turned slightly and I caught his profile. Sharp cheekbones, a nose that had been broken at least once, a mouth that would have been beautiful if it wasn't set in such a hard line. "What's his vulnerability?" I asked. "Excuse me?" "Everyone has one. The crack in the armor." "What's his?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "His sister, Juliana. She died 7 years ago. Car accident. Some say it wasn't an accident. Some say his father, Salvatore Sr., had her killed because she was planning to testify. Dante's never been the same since." I filed that away. "What else?" "He's smart. Smarter than his father ever was. Degree from Columbia in international business. Speaks 4 languages. Runs his empire like a corporation. Clean on the surface, blood underneath. He's been groomed for this since birth, but according to our sources, he hates it. The life, the violence, the name. Then why stay? Because it's all he knows. Because leaving means dying. Because somewhere deep down, he probably thinks he deserves it." Marcus looked at me. "Think you can crack him?" I watched Dante press one hand against the glass, fingers splayed. From this angle, I could see the scars on his knuckles. Old wounds that had healed badly. "I can try." "Good." Marcus checked his watch. "You're going in. Remember, you're not FBI. You're an independent consultant. Keep it professional. Keep it clinical. Get him to trust you. Get him to talk. And whatever you do, don't let him get under your skin." Too late, I thought. Because as I turned to leave the observation room, Dante Salvatore looked up. Straight at the mirror. Straight at me. As if he could see through the glass. Through the walls. Through the careful mask I wore. His eyes were the color of winter storms. And for just a second, I forgot how to breathe. The door to the interrogation room opened with a soft click. Dante didn't turn. He kept his back to me, hands still in his pockets, studying the Manhattan skyline like it held answers. "Mr. Salvatore," I said, keeping my voice neutral and professional. My name is Dr. Isabella Morelli. I'm a consulting psychologist. The court has asked me to conduct a competency evaluation. Silence. I set my briefcase on the table, pulled out a leather portfolio and pen, the rituals of my cover identity. I understand you've declined to speak with the investigators. That's your right. But this evaluation is separate from your criminal case. It's about ensuring you understand the charges against you and can assist in your own defense. Still nothing. I sat down, crossed my legs, and waited. I'd learned long ago that silence was a tool. Most people rushed to fill it. But Dante Salvatore wasn't most people. Finally, after nearly a full minute, he spoke. Morelli. His voice was deeper than I expected, with the faint ghost of an accent smoothed by expensive education. Italian? My father's family, from Napoli. And your mother? Irish. Boston. He turned then, and the full force of his attention hit me like a physical thing. Up close, he was devastating. Not handsome in a conventional way. His features were too sharp, too intense, but compelling. Magnetic. The kind of face that made you want to keep looking, to keep discovering new angles and shadows. A good mix, he said. Fire and passion, pragmatism and sentiment. He moved to the table, pulled out the chair across from me and sat with fluid grace. Tell me, Dr. Morelli, do you believe in what you do? I'm sorry? Your work, evaluating criminals, reducing human behavior to diagnostic criteria. Do you believe it means something? Or is it just another way to pretend we understand the mess we've made? I clicked my pen, noted the time on my pad. That's an interesting question. Why do you ask? Because I'm trying to decide if I want to waste my time with you. A challenge. Testing me. I met his eyes and didn't look away. I believe people are more than their worst decisions, I said carefully. I believe that understanding behavior, why someone does what they do, is the first step toward change, toward redemption, if that's what they want. And if they don't want redemption, then I document that too. But in my experience, everyone wants something, Mr. Salvatore, even if it's just to be understood. Something flickered in his eyes, not quite surprise, but close. You're very good at your job, aren't you? I try to be. That's not what I asked. I tilted my head, studying him. Yes, I'm very good at what I do. A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. At least you're honest about something. The words landed like an arrow, as if he already knew I was hiding things. But that was impossible. My cover was airtight. FBI legend. Complete backstory. Years of legitimate academic credentials. There was no way he could know. And yet. Let's begin, I said, opening my portfolio. I'm going to ask you some questions. Some will seem obvious. Some might feel invasive. You can refuse to answer any of them, but I should warn you, the court will draw their own conclusions from your silence. Let them. Mr. Salvatore. Dante. He leaned back in his chair, utterly relaxed. If we're going to play this game, Dr. Morelli, at least use my name. Mr. Salvatore is my father, and he's dead. I wrote that down. Father deceased. Notable absence of emotion when mentioned. When did he die? 8 months ago. Heart attack. Or so they said. You don't believe it? I believe my father made a lot of enemies. I believe the heart is not always the organ that fails us first. His eyes never left mine. I believe you already know this. Just like you know everything else in my file. This isn't about your file, it's about you. No. He leaned forward suddenly and I caught his scent. Expensive cologne, leather, and something darker underneath. It's about whether I'm sane enough to stand trial. Whether I understand right from wrong. Whether I can tell my lawyers how to defend me against charges that we both know are accurate. His voice dropped lower. So let's skip the games, doctor. Ask what you really want to know. My pulse quickened, but I kept my expression neutral. What do I really want to know? Whether I'm a monster? Whether I sleep at night? Whether I have a conscience or if that part of me died with my sister? There it was. The vulnerability Marcus had mentioned. But Dante had offered it himself, which meant it wasn't a weakness. It was a weapon, a way to control the narrative. Tell me about Juliana, I said softly. For the first time, his mask cracked, just for a second. But I saw it. Raw grief, quickly locked away. No. Dante? That's not part of your evaluation. My sister has nothing to do with why I'm here. Doesn't she? From what I understand, everything changed after she died. You understand nothing. The temperature in the room dropped. You sit there with your leather portfolio and your clinical questions, and you think you can dissect me like I'm one of your case studies. But you can't, because the only thing you need to understand is this. I know exactly who I am. I know exactly what I've done, and I know exactly what will happen next. What will happen next? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You'll write your report. The court will find me competent. I'll stand trial. The jury will convict me because the evidence is overwhelming and I won't defend myself. And I'll go to prison for the rest of my life. It's all very simple, Dr. Morelli. Very neat. You sound almost relieved. Maybe I am. I set down my pen, looked at him without the professional distance, without the evaluation framework. Just looked at him. I don't think you're a monster, I said quietly. He went very still. I think you're a man who was born into something he didn't choose, who lost the one person who saw him as human, who's been trying to survive in a world that demands blood for loyalty. I paused. I think you're exhausted, and I think part of you wants this to end, even if the ending destroys you. The silence that followed felt infinite. Dante stared at me with an expression I couldn't read. Shock, maybe. Or recognition. As if I'd said something no one else had ever dared to say out loud. You're dangerous, he finally said. You know that? I'm just doing my job. No. He stood abruptly, turned back to the window. You're doing something else entirely, and I can't decide if that makes you the best liar I've ever met, or the only honest person in this room. I should have left it there, maintained my professional distance, but something in his voice, something broken and real, made me stay. Why won't you defend yourself? I asked. Because some cages are more honest than others. That's not an answer. He looked at me over his shoulder. It's the only answer I have, doctor. The guard knocked on the door. Time's up. I gathered my things, stood. As I reached the door, Dante spoke again. Dr. Morelli? I turned. Come back. For another evaluation? No. His eyes held mine. Just come back. I should have said no. Should have maintained boundaries. Should have remembered that this was a mission, an operation, a carefully constructed deception. But standing there, looking at Dante Salvatore, at the pain he tried so hard to hide, at the intelligence that could have taken him anywhere if he'd been born into a different name, I felt something shift inside me, something dangerous. I'll see what I can arrange, I heard myself say. And as I walked out of that room, I felt his eyes on my back like a brand. I returned 3 days later. This time, they'd moved him to a different location, a pre-trial holding facility designed for high-profile defendants, more civilized than a jail cell, but still a cage. They gave him a suite with a meeting room attached, 24-hour surveillance, and guards stationed at every exit. But they gave him to me for 2 hours a day. For evaluation purposes, Marcus was pleased. He's talking to you. That's more than we've gotten in weeks. Keep pushing. Build trust. Get him to open up about his organization, his associates, anything that can help us shut down the family operations for good. What Marcus didn't know, what no one on the task force knew, was that I wasn't pushing at all. Dante and I talked, just talked, about everything and nothing, philosophy, literature, the nature of power and corruption, the way New York changed after midnight, whether redemption was possible for people like him. He was brilliant, wickedly sharp and darkly funny. He quoted Dostoevsky and debated Machiavelli. He spoke Italian like poetry and dissected human nature with surgical precision, but he never talked about his crimes, and I never asked directly, because the moment I pushed for information, he would shut down, retreat behind that cold mask, and I'd lose him. So instead, I let him lead. I listened. I asked questions that had nothing to do with evidence or testimony. I let him tell me stories about growing up in a world where loyalty was currency and blood was destiny. I let him see me as something other than an enemy. And somewhere in those conversations, late afternoon light streaming through barred windows, something began to grow between us. Something neither of us intended. Trust. Tell me about your sister, I asked on the 5th visit. We were sitting across from each other at the small table in his meeting room. a chess set between us. He'd taught me Sicilian defense the day before, and now we were playing our second game. His hand hovered over a bishop. Why? Because you loved her. And love tells me more about a person than anything else. He moved the piece. Check. Love is the worst measure of character. People do monstrous things in the name of love. You included? Especially me. He looked up. Juliana was 3 years younger than me. She was everything I wasn't. Kind, gentle, idealistic. She believed our family could change, that she could reform things from within. His jaw tightened. She was wrong. What happened? She started talking to the wrong people, making noise about testifying, about bringing down the organization. He stared at the chessboard. My father couldn't allow that. Family comes first. That's the rule. Always. So he killed her. He gave the order. I don't know who carried it out. I've spent 7 years trying to find out. And I'm no closer to the truth. His voice went flat. They made it look like an accident. Brake failure on a mountain road. She died instantly. That's what they told me. I like to believe it was painless. I reached across the table without thinking, placed my hand over his. His skin was warm, scarred knuckles under my palm. I'm sorry, I said. Truly. Dante looked at my hand on his, then at my face. And for a moment, the walls came down completely. She would have liked you, he said quietly. You remind me of her. The way you see past the surface. The way you ask questions like you actually want the answers. I should have pulled my hand away, should have maintained distance, but I didn't. What did you do? I asked. After she died? I stopped pretending. He turned his hand over, laced his fingers through mine. I stopped believing I could be anything other than what I was born to be. I took my place in the family. I became what they wanted, and I've been trying to atone for her death ever since. By what? Running a criminal empire? By surviving. By making sure her death meant something. By trying to change things from within, the way she couldn't. His thumb brushed my wrist. I'm not a good man, Isabella. But I'm not the monster everyone thinks I am either. The use of my first name sent electricity through me. I know, I whispered. Do you? His eyes searched mine. Or are you just very good at your job? It was a test. A question hidden in a question, and the honest answer would have destroyed everything. But I couldn't lie. Not completely. Both, I said. I am good at my job, but I also know you're more than your name, more than your crimes, more than any file or profile or surveillance report. How can you know that? You've known me for 2 weeks. Because I've studied people my entire life, and you're the first one who scares me. I scare you? Not because of what you've done. I met his eyes. Because of what you make me want to do. The air between us went electric. Dante's hand tightened on mine. Dr. Morelli. Isabella. Isabella. He said my name like a prayer and a curse. You should leave. Right now. Walk out of this room and don't come back. Why? Because if you stay, I'm going to start believing things that aren't real. I'm going to forget that you're here to evaluate me. I'm going to forget that I'm going to prison. I'm going to forget every single reason why this can't be anything more than it is. My heart hammered against my ribs. What is it? I don't know. But it's dangerous. And you're too smart not to recognize that. He was right. I should leave. I should maintain my cover, complete my mission, and stop this before it went too far. But I didn't move. I'll come back tomorrow, I heard myself say. Dante's eyes darkened. Then we're both making a mistake. Probably. Isabella. The door opened. The guard stepped in. Time's up, Dr. Morelli. I pulled my hand away slowly, gathered my things. As I stood, Dante caught my wrist. What you said earlier, about being scared. Yes? I'm scared too. I looked at him, this powerful, dangerous man, and saw the truth in his eyes. He wasn't just falling for my cover, he was falling for me. And God help me, I was falling for him too. The 6th week of our sessions, everything changed. Dante was being held in pre-trial detention, waiting for a court date that kept getting delayed. His lawyers were building a defense he refused to participate in. The prosecution was gathering evidence for a trial that would make legal history, and I was drowning in him. Every visit, I told myself it was the last. Every night, I wrote reports for Marcus that said nothing substantial. I was supposed to be extracting information, building psychological leverage, finding weaknesses the FBI could exploit. Instead, I was learning how Dante took his coffee. The scar on his left shoulder from a knife fight when he was 17. The way he ran his hand through his hair when he was thinking deeply. How his voice changed when he talked about art or philosophy. Softer, almost reverent. I was learning the man underneath the empire, and I was lying to him with every breath. "You're quiet today," Dante observed. We were in the meeting room, late afternoon sun slanting through the reinforced windows. He was reading some dense philosophy text in Italian, while I pretended to review notes. "Just thinking about your case, the trial." He set down his book. "That's not what you were thinking about." "How do you know?" "Because when you think about the trial, you get a little line right here." He tapped the space between his eyebrows. "When you're thinking about something else, you bite your lower lip. You've been biting your lip for 10 minutes. Heat flooded my cheeks. "You're very observant." "I'm motivated." He stood, moved to the window. "What were you really thinking about?" I should have deflected, changed the subject, but the words came out before I could stop them. "I was thinking about what happens after. After the trial? After I can't come here anymore. When this, whatever this is, has to end." Dante turned. The light behind him made him a silhouette, all shadows and dangerous beauty. "And what is this, Isabella?" "I don't know." "Yes, you do. You're too smart not to know." I stood, closed my portfolio. "It's unethical. You're my client. I'm supposed to be objective, professional." "You're lying." My breath caught. "Excuse me?" "Not about your feelings. About the rest of it." He crossed the room in 3 strides, stopped close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him. "You're not just evaluating me. That's not why you keep coming back." Panic shot through me. "Dante, you're falling for me." His hand came up, fingers brushing my cheek with devastating gentleness. "Just like I'm falling for you. And it's terrifying because it shouldn't be possible. I shouldn't be capable of this. You shouldn't want someone like me. But here we are. I should have stepped back. Should have denied it. Should have protected my cover at all costs." But his touch burned through every lie I'd told. "You're right," I whispered. "I'm terrified. Of me? Of what I feel. Of what it means. Of what I'm willing to risk for something that can't possibly end well." His thumb traced my lower lip. "Then walk away. Leave right now. Don't come back. It's the smart choice." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I'm not who you think I am. Because I'm here to destroy you. Because every moment with you is another betrayal piled on top of betrayal, and I don't know how to stop." "Because I see you," I said instead. "The real you. And I can't unsee it." Something cracked in his expression, as if I'd hit the one truth he'd been afraid to hope for. "God help us both," he muttered. And then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was weeks of tension and denial and impossible want compressed into a single, devastating moment. His hand tangled in my hair, his mouth claiming mine with an urgency that stole my breath. I kissed him back with equal hunger, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer even as my mind screamed warnings. This was crossing every line, breaking every rule, shattering my mission into pieces. And I didn't care. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante pressed his forehead to mine. "I love you," he said. "I don't know how or why, but I do. And it's going to destroy us both." The words hit me like bullets. Because I loved him too. Against every instinct, every oath, every reason why this was impossible, I loved him. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just a mission gone wrong. This wasn't just an undercover agent getting too close to her target. This was tragedy written in real time. This was 2 people falling toward an ending that could only end in ruins. "Dante," I started, but he stopped me with a kiss. "Don't," he murmured against my lips. "Don't tell me all the reasons why this can't work. I already know them. Just give me this. Give me whatever time we have before it all falls apart." I should have said no. I should have ended it right there. But I wrapped my arms around him and held on like he was the only solid thing in a world spinning out of control. The night he told me about his empire, we were alone in his meeting room at 2 a.m. I'd gotten clearance for a late-night emergency session, officially to discuss his deteriorating mental state before trial. Unofficially, because I couldn't stay away. Dante sat across from me, exhausted. They'd moved him again, this time to a federal courthouse holding area. Security was tighter. The walls were closing in. "Talk to me," I said softly. He looked at me with those storm-gray eyes. "About what?" "Anything. Everything. Tell me what you're thinking." "I'm thinking I've made a terrible mistake." My heart stopped. Did he know? Had he figured out? "I'm thinking I let myself love you," he continued. "And now everything is so much harder than it was before." Relief and guilt hit me simultaneously. "Dante?" "No, let me finish." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I want to tell you everything. About my family, about what I've done, about who I really am. Not because I think it will change anything, but because I want one person in this world to know the truth before I disappear into a prison cell for the rest of my life." This was it. The moment every FBI agent dreamed of, a target voluntarily confessing. I should have been elated. I should have been recording every word. Instead, I felt sick. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." His voice was fierce. "Because if I don't tell you now, I never will. And I need someone to know. I need you to know." And then he told me everything. Not the crimes. Not the evidence the FBI needed. But the truth underneath all of it. He told me how his father had groomed him from childhood. How violence was the language of love in his family. How he'd tried to escape a dozen times and been dragged back each time, until he finally accepted that leaving meant death. His own, or someone else's. He told me about the night Juliana died. How he'd found out from a text message. How he'd driven to the crash site and stood there in the rain, staring at the twisted metal, knowing in his bones it was murder. He told me about taking over the family after his father's death, not because he wanted power, but because the alternative was chaos. War. More death. "I'm not a good man," he said. "I've hurt people. Ordered things that keep me awake at night. Made choices I can never take back. But I've tried. God, I've tried. To make the organization less brutal. To transition away from violence. To find a way out that doesn't end in blood." "Why didn't you just walk away?" I asked. "Why not disappear?" "Because they would have hunted me. And when they couldn't find me, they would have gone after anyone I ever cared about. My mother, my cousins, people who had nothing to do with the family business." He looked at me. "I stayed to protect them. And now I'm going to prison to protect them too. I don't understand. The FBI case against me is airtight. They have evidence, witnesses, recordings. If I fight it, if I drag this out, they'll dig deeper. They'll go after everyone in my organization. They'll destroy families, businesses, lives." His voice went hollow. "But if I plead guilty, if I give them the victory they want without a fight, they'll stop there. They'll get their prize. And everyone else stays safe." My throat tightened. "You're sacrificing yourself." "I'm doing what I should have done 7 years ago." "Dante, no." "Isabella." He reached across the table, took my hands in his. "Listen to me. The only thing that makes any of this bearable is you. These past weeks. Talking to you. Being with you. It's been the first time in years I've felt like a human being instead of a weapon. You make me believe I'm more than my name. More than my sins." Tears burned my eyes. "You are more. So much more. Then promise me something. Anything. When this is over, when I'm gone, don't remember me as a monster. Remember me like this. Remember that I tried, that I loved you, that for a little while, I was the man I wanted to be, instead of the man I was born to be." I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The weight of what I was doing, who I really was, crushed me like a physical force. "I promise," I whispered. He stood, pulled me to my feet, and kissed me with heartbreaking tenderness. Like he was memorizing the taste of my lips, like he was saying goodbye. "I love you," he murmured. "Whatever happens next, I need you to know that. I love you more than I've ever loved anything. I love you too." The words came out broken, barely audible, but true, so devastatingly true. We stood there in that sterile holding room, wrapped around each other, while the surveillance cameras recorded everything and the walls closed in, and the ending rushed toward us like a train we couldn't stop. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that I was about to destroy the man I loved. Because that night, after I left the courthouse, after I sat in my car trembling and sick with guilt, I returned to the FBI field office and filed my report. I gave them everything. Not because I wanted to, but because if I didn't, someone else would. The Bureau had been patient, but they were running out of time. They needed something concrete, something actionable. And I'd just been handed the perfect piece. Dante's confirmation that he was running the organization, his admission of authority, his willingness to plead guilty. It wasn't enough for RICO charges on its own, but combined with the existing evidence, it was the missing link, the final piece that would seal his conviction. I typed the report with shaking hands, encoded it with the standard Bureau encryption, sent it to Marcus, and then I went home, poured myself a drink I couldn't taste, and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. This woman who looked like me, but had just betrayed the one person who saw her as real. I thought about calling it off, walking away, blowing my cover and running. But I'd made my choice years ago, when I joined the FBI, when I swore to uphold the law, no matter the cost, when I became Special Agent Isabella Chen instead of the person I used to be. Dr. Isabella Morelli was a fiction, a ghost designed to get close to dangerous men and extract their secrets. She wasn't supposed to fall in love. She wasn't supposed to have a conscience. She wasn't supposed to feel like she was dying inside. But here I was, looking at a stranger in the mirror, wondering which version of me was the lie, the agent, or the woman Dante Salvatore loved. The arrest came 2 days later. I wasn't there when it happened. I couldn't be. Marcus had ordered me to stay away, for your own safety, and to protect the operation. But I watched the footage later, saw the SWAT team descend on the courthouse, saw Dante being dragged out in handcuffs, surrounded by agents in tactical gear, cameras flashing like lightning. Saw him scanning the crowd, searching, looking for me. I watched that moment over and over in the Bureau's tech lab. The video paused on his face. Confusion morphing into understanding, morphing into something that looked like death. He knew. In that instant, he knew. Not the specifics. Not that I was FBI. But he knew I'd betrayed him. Knew that everything we'd shared had been part of something larger and darker than he'd realized. Textbook operation, Marcus said, clapping me on the shoulder. You did good work, Chen. Getting him to trust you, to open up, it made all the difference. The DA says we have enough now for a solid conviction. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. I just stared at the screen, at Dante's face frozen in that moment of realization. You should take some time off, Marcus continued. Decompress. These long-term undercover operations take a toll. We'll debrief next week, get your official statement, and close this out. Did he say anything? I heard myself ask. When you arrested him? Marcus frowned. He asked for you. Kept asking where you were. Then he stopped talking entirely. Why? Just curious. But it wasn't curiosity. It was guilt. Raw and corrosive, eating through my chest. I left the field office and drove to a park by the river. Sat on a bench as the sun set over the water and tried to remember why I'd thought this was the right thing to do. Justice, law, and order. Protecting society from dangerous criminals. The words felt hollow, meaningless. Because the truth was, Dante Salvatore was guilty. He'd committed crimes, ordered violence, built an empire on blood and fear. But he was also a man who'd been trying to change, who'd been trapped by circumstances and birth, who'd fallen in love with the wrong person at the wrong time. And I'd used that love as a weapon. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Agent Chen. A woman's voice, cold and controlled. This is Assistant Director Stephanie Hammond. I'm calling to commend you on the Salvatore case. Your work was exemplary. Thank you, ma'am. I wanted you to know. We've been watching your career for some time. You have a rare gift for undercover work, for making targets trust you, for extracting information without arousing suspicion. The Bureau needs more agents with your skill set. I appreciate that. Which is why I'm offering you a position on a new task force. High-level organized crime, international scope. You'd be running long-term infiltration operations, just like Salvatore. What do you say? I looked out at the water, at the city lights beginning to glow in the darkness. Can I think about it? Of course. Take a week. But Chen, this is the kind of opportunity that doesn't come twice. You could do real good. Take down people who hurt others. make a difference. I understand. She hung up. I sat there until the park closed, thinking about the word good, how malleable it was, how it could be stretched to cover almost anything as long as you believed hard enough. I didn't go to the arraignment, or the preliminary hearings, or any of the court appearances leading up to the trial. I told myself it was to protect my cover, to avoid complications, to maintain operational security. But the truth was simpler. I was a coward. I couldn't face him. Couldn't look into those storm-gray eyes and see the betrayal I'd carved into them. Couldn't bear to watch him realize, piece by piece, exactly who I really was. So I stayed away. I filed my reports, gave my depositions, provided the testimony the prosecution needed for their case, all from a distance, all through lawyers and affidavits. I became a ghost. The trial date was set for 3 months out. The prosecution was confident, the defense was scrambling, and Dante stayed silent, just as he'd promised. He pled guilty to multiple counts, accepted responsibility, refused to implicate anyone else in his organization. He protected them, even as they abandoned him. And through it all, he never mentioned me, never told his lawyers about Dr. Isabella Morelli, never exposed the FBI's operation or my role in his arrest. He could have. God knows he had every right. But he didn't. It was the final act of love from a man who'd been betrayed by the person he loved most, and it destroyed me. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly, spent my nights staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every touch, every moment I'd lied to him. Marcus noticed. You need to talk to someone. Bureau psychiatrist, maybe. This case clearly affected you. I'm fine. Chen, you look like hell. When's the last time you slept? I said I'm fine. But I wasn't fine. I was breaking apart from the inside out. Because the worst part, the part I couldn't admit to anyone, was that I missed him. Missed the sound of his voice. The way he looked at me like I was the only real thing in his world. The conversations that stretched into the early morning hours, touching on philosophy and truth and the nature of redemption. I missed the man I'd destroyed, and I hated myself for it. One night, 6 weeks after the arrest, I found myself outside the detention facility where Dante was being held. I didn't plan it. I just drove there, parked across the street, and stared at the building. Somewhere behind those walls, he was locked in a cell, reading maybe, or staring at the ceiling the way I did, or thinking about me, hating me. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Final pretrial conference tomorrow. We need you there. Can't avoid it anymore. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, I'll be there. Because running was over. The ending was coming, whether I was ready for it or not. And I owed Dante Salvatore one final truth, even if it shattered us both. The pre-trial conference was held in a secure courthouse conference room. Dante's legal team on one side, the prosecution on the other. Dante himself at the center, wearing a suit that probably cost less than he was used to, hands cuffed in front of him. He didn't look up when I entered. Marcus had briefed me carefully. You're here as an expert witness. You observed Salvatore during the competency evaluation. You can testify to his state of mind, his understanding of the charges. Keep it clinical. Don't engage beyond what's necessary. But the moment I saw Dante, the set of his shoulders, the carefully blank expression, the way his jaw tightened when he heard my footsteps, clinical became impossible. I took my seat at the prosecution table, trying to disappear into the background. Dr. Morelli, the lead prosecutor said, thank you for being here. Dante's head snapped up, his eyes found mine, and the world stopped. I saw it happen in real time, the way his expression shifted from controlled neutrality to shock, to dawning, devastating understanding. He'd known I betrayed him, but he hadn't known the extent. Hadn't known I was sitting at the prosecution table. Hadn't known I was part of the team destroying him. You, he said softly. The word carried across the room like a gunshot. His lawyer put a hand on his arm. Mr. Salvatore, please. You. Louder now. Standing. Chains rattling. You're with them. You were always with them. The guards stepped forward, but the prosecutor waved them back. Dante, I started, but he cut me off with a bitter laugh. Don't you dare say my name. Not after. He stopped, shook his head like he was trying to clear it. Morelli. It was your real name, wasn't it? You used your real name because you thought I'd never find out. Because you thought I was too stupid to connect the dots. It's not. How long? His voice went deadly quiet. How long were you FBI? I should have stayed silent. Should have let the lawyers handle it. But I owed him this much. The entire time. The words hung in the air like smoke. Dante's lawyer tried to intervene. My client doesn't need to hear. Yes, I do. Dante's eyes never left mine. I need to hear all of it. Every detail of how you played me. Mr. Salvatore, the judge interjected. This is not the time. When is the time? Dante's voice rose. When I'm serving life in prison? When it's too late to matter? He turned back to me. You were undercover. From the beginning. The evaluation, the therapy sessions, everything. Yes. The late-night conversations, the chess games, the philosophy debates. Yes. The kiss, the confession, his voice broke. Christ. The I love you. That was part of it too, wasn't it? And there it was. The question I'd been dreading. The one I couldn't answer honestly without destroying what little remained of my cover, my career, my carefully constructed life. But looking at Dante, at the raw pain in his eyes, the way he was barely holding himself together, I couldn't lie anymore. No, I whispered. That part was real. Silence. Even the lawyers stopped shuffling papers. Dante stared at me like I'd struck him. What? The feelings. What I felt for you. That wasn't part of the operation. That was... I swallowed hard. That was me. The real me. Not Agent Chen. Not Dr. Morelli. Just... me. You expect me to believe that? But his voice wavered. I don't expect anything. But it's the truth. I fell in love with you, Dante. And it's the worst thing I've ever done. His lawyer was frantically whispering in his ear. The prosecutor was glaring at me. The judge was calling for order. But Dante and I were locked in our own world, where nothing existed except the wreckage between us. If you loved me, he said finally, then how could you do this? How could you lie to me every single day, knowing how I felt, knowing what it would do to me when I found out? Because I had to choose. My voice cracked. Between you and my duty, between what I felt and what was right. And I chose wrong. Or I chose right. I don't know anymore. All I know is that I destroyed the one good thing in my life, and I have to live with that. Destroyed? He laughed, but it was a broken sound. Isabella, or whatever your real name is, you didn't destroy one good thing. You destroyed me. Completely. Do you understand that? You were the only person I trusted. The only person I let inside. And it was all an elaborate lie designed to put me in a cage. My name is Isabella. The words came out fierce. That part was real too. Isabella Chen, FBI. But the woman you fell in love with, the woman who talked to you about Dostoevsky and redemption and the possibility of change, that was real. She exists. And she's standing here, wishing she could take it all back. Then why didn't you? His eyes searched mine. Why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you tell me? Because I couldn't. Tears spilled down my cheeks. Because if I did, I would lose my job, my career, everything I've worked for. Because I took an oath to uphold the law, and you broke it. Because even loving you doesn't change what you've done. Because there's no good choice here, Dante. There's only varying degrees of betrayal. He shook his head slowly. You're right about one thing. There is no good choice. Which is why I made my decision months ago. He looked at his lawyer. I want to proceed with the guilty plea. No deal. Full sentence. I'm done fighting. Dante, his lawyer protested. I'm done. He turned back to me one last time. I hope it was worth it, Agent Chen. I hope my conviction makes you feel like you did the right thing. Because I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison, knowing that the only person I ever loved sold me out for a promotion. The words hit like a blade. It wasn't like that, wasn't it? He smiled, but it was the saddest thing I'd ever seen. Tell me, Isabella, when you write your final report, when you get your commendation for exceptional undercover work, when you move on to the next target and the next lie, will you remember me? Or will I just be another case file in your perfect career? I couldn't answer, because the truth was too complicated, too painful, too real. That's what I thought, Dante said quietly. And then, to the judge, I'd like to proceed with sentencing. The sentencing hearing was set for 2 weeks later. I spent those weeks in a fog, going through the motions of my job, accepting congratulations from colleagues who thought I'd pulled off a brilliant operation, sitting through debriefings where I recounted every detail of my time with Dante in flat, clinical language that made it sound like I'd never felt anything at all. At night, I dreamed of him, of our late-night conversations, of the way he looked at me when he told me he loved me, of the moment in the courthouse when his eyes met mine and everything shattered. Marcus offered me the task force position again. You've proven yourself. This could be the start of an incredible career. I need time to think. Chen, opportunities like this. I said I need time. He backed off, but I could see the concern in his eyes. He thought I was cracking, losing my edge, letting emotion compromise my judgment. He wasn't wrong. The day before the sentencing, I received a letter. No return address. Just my name on the envelope in handwriting I recognized immediately. My hands shook as I opened it. Isabella. I'm writing this because there are things I need to say, and I don't trust myself to say them in person without breaking. You asked me once why I wouldn't defend myself. The truth is, I've been defending myself my entire life, defending my choices, my family, my right to exist in a world that decided who I was before I could make that choice for myself. I'm tired of defending. What you did, the deception, the betrayal, it destroyed me. Not because you were FBI, not because you were doing your job, but because for the first time in my life, I let myself hope. I let myself believe that someone could see past the name and the empire and the sins, and love me anyway. You showed me that was possible, and then you took it away. But here's the thing I've realized. Sitting in this cell, you were doing exactly what I was doing, surviving, trying to be something other than what you were born to be. You took an oath, you had a duty, you made impossible choices because there were no good ones. I understand that now. I hate it, but I understand. The woman I fell in love with, Dr. Isabella Morelli, she never existed, but Isabella Chen does. And I think part of her loved me too, the real me, not the investigation or the target or the path to promotion, just me. I'm writing to tell you that I forgive you, not because you deserve it, not because what you did was right, but because loving someone means accepting all of them, their light and their darkness, their honor and their betrayals. I loved you. I still do. And that love doesn't evaporate just because you broke my heart. It just becomes something else, something painful and beautiful and impossibly sad. So I forgive you, Isabella, for lying, for using me, for making me believe in something that was never real. And I'm asking you to forgive yourself, because I know you. And I know you're drowning in guilt. I know you're wondering if you're a monster. I know you're questioning everything you thought you knew about right and wrong. You're not a monster. You're human. And humans make terrible choices in the name of duty and love and survival. Going to prison tomorrow. Life sentence probably. And I'll think about you every day. About what we had. About what we could have been. In a different world where I wasn't who I am, and you weren't who you are. But we're in this world, and this is the ending we get. Thank you for seeing me, Isabella, for making me feel human, even if it was part of a lie. For those few weeks when I wasn't Dante Salvatore, heir to a crime empire. When I was just a man who fell in love with an impossible woman. I'll remember you, the real you, always. Dante. I read the letter 3 times. Then I pressed it to my chest and cried until I couldn't breathe. I didn't attend the sentencing hearing. I couldn't. I'd done enough damage. But I heard about it. 30 years to life, federal supermax facility. No parole. Dante Salvatore had been erased from the world, locked in a cage where he would slowly fade into nothing. And I had put him there. I submitted my resignation to the FBI the next day. Marcus tried to talk me out of it. You're making a mistake. You're too emotional. Take a leave of absence, but don't throw away your career. It's not my career, I told him. It was never my career. It was a role I played, and I'm done playing. What will you do? I don't know. Something that doesn't require me to destroy people I love. Chen. Isabella. You can't let one case define your entire career. But it wasn't one case. It was the realization that I'd become someone I didn't recognize, someone who could lie so convincingly that even I believed it, someone who could weaponize intimacy and call it justice. I left the FBI 3 weeks after Dante's sentencing. I moved to a different city, found work as an actual therapist. No covers, no lies, just helping people untangle their trauma. And every night I thought about him, wondered if he was thinking about me, wondered if forgiveness was really possible, or if we were both just carrying the weight of our choices until it crushed us. 6 weeks after I left the bureau, I received notice that Dante had been transferred to his permanent facility. Maximum security, 23-hour lockdown, the kind of place where souls go to die. And I knew that I couldn't leave it like this, that there were things left unsaid, truths left unspoken, an ending that needed to be written, no matter how painful. So I called the facility, requested a visit, used my former credentials to get clearance, and 3 days later I found myself driving through the gates of the federal Supermax facility where Dante Salvatore would spend the rest of his life. This is where we began, where I walked down that corridor, each step echoing like a countdown, where I stepped into that room and saw him in chains, where everything came full circle, and the ending we'd been running from finally caught up, back to the present, back to this moment, back to the truth that's been building since the day we met. Dante stares at me across the table. His wrists are cuffed to the chain bolted to the floor. His eyes are cold fire. "You came," he says. Not a question, an accusation. I had to. Why? To make yourself feel better? To get closure? To check that your brilliant operation stuck and I'm properly broken? To tell you the truth. I take a breath. All of it. Not the version I told the FBI. Not the version that protects my cover or my career or my conscience. The whole truth. I don't want your truth. I want my life back. Dante, stop. He closes his eyes. Please. Whatever you came here to say, whatever confession you think you owe me, I don't want it. I read your letter. I know you felt guilty. I know you think you loved me. And I've accepted that none of it matters because I'm here and you're out there and nothing changes. You wrote to me. You said you forgave me. I lied. His eyes snap open. Or I thought I meant it. But seeing you now, sitting there free and whole while I'm chained to a fucking floor, I realize I don't forgive you. I can't. Because forgiveness requires understanding, and I don't understand how you could do what you did. My chest tightens. Then let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You were undercover. You did your job. End of story. No. I lean forward. It's not the end. Because you deserve to know why. Not the official reason. Law enforcement. Justice. Duty. The real reason. The truth I've never told anyone. He watches me warily. What truth? I joined the FBI because of my sister. I see surprise flicker across his face, quickly masked. Her name was Sarah. She was younger than me by 4 years. Smart, funny, full of life. My voice cracks, but I push through. When I was 23 and she was 19, she started dating someone. Marco. He was older, charming, had money, treated her like a princess. We thought he was perfect for her. Dante's expression shifts slightly, listening now, despite himself. What we didn't know, what none of us knew until it was too late, was that Marco was connected. Not high level, just an enforcer for a mid-tier operation, but dangerous, violent, and possessive. Isabella. Sarah tried to leave him, multiple times. He'd apologize, promise to change, and she'd go back. Classic cycle. Until one night she called me, said she was done, really done, asked me to come get her. Tears burned my eyes. I was at a conference 300 miles away. I told her to wait, to stay safe, to call the police if she felt threatened. But she didn't. She tried to leave on her own, packed a bag, walked out, and Marco followed her. The words catch in my throat. Even after all these years, the memory is a blade. He shot her in a parking lot, 3 times, left her there to bleed out while he disappeared. By the time I got the call, she was already gone. Dante's expression has gone soft. Christ. The FBI caught Marco 2 years later. Unrelated charges. He went to prison, but my sister was still dead, and I realized I could have prevented it. If I'd been smarter, If I'd understood what kind of man he was, if I'd known the signs of a dangerous criminal hiding behind charm and romance. So you became an agent. I became an agent. Because I needed to understand. Needed to be able to see through the masks men like Marco wear. Needed to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. I meet his eyes. And then I met you. And saw another Marco. No. The word comes out fierce. That's the thing. I didn't. You weren't like him at all. You weren't charming to manipulate. You weren't violent for control. You were... I struggle for words. You were trapped. Trying to escape something you were born into. Trying to be better than your circumstances allowed. But I was still a criminal. Yes. But you were also a person. A complicated, damaged, brilliant person who'd been dealt an impossible hand and was doing his best to play it without destroying everyone around him. Dante's jaw tightens. Is this supposed to make me feel better? Knowing you compared me to the man who killed your sister and decided I was the lesser monster? You're not a monster at all. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I went into this operation ready to hate you, ready to see you as Marco 2.0, ready to use any means necessary to take you down because it would feel like justice for Sarah. And instead, I fell in love with you. The admission hangs in the air. I saw you as human, flawed and guilty and trapped, but human. And it destroyed every certainty I had about good and evil and the neat lines between them. He's quiet for a long moment. Your sister. The real reason you understood about Juliana. Yes. I knew what it felt like to lose someone you were supposed to protect, to carry that guilt, to wonder if you could have prevented it. And you used that connection. Used my grief over my sister to get close to me. The accusation stings because it's true. Yes, I did. And I hate myself for it. But I take a shaky breath. I also connected with you. Really connected. Not as Agent Chen executing an operation, but as Isabella, who understood loss and guilt, and the weight of choices that can't be unmade. Pretty words. But his voice lacks conviction. They're not pretty. They're messy and complicated and inadequate, just like everything between us. I lean forward. Dante, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to understand or accept or absolve me. I'm just asking you to hear this. What I felt for you was real. The woman who loved you, who loves you still, she exists. And she's sorry. So fucking sorry that she destroyed the best thing in her life because she couldn't figure out how to balance duty and desire. So what now? His voice is raw. You said what you came to say. Now what? Now I need to tell you something else. Something I haven't told anyone. He waits. I'm leaving the FBI. I've already resigned. I couldn't. After you. After seeing what I became, what I was willing to do, I couldn't keep doing it. I was supposed to protect people like my sister. Instead, I became someone who hurts people, who weaponizes intimacy and calls it duty. Surprise flashes across his face. You quit? Yes. Because of me? Because of who I became with you. Because I realized that justice and cruelty sometimes look identical, and I couldn't tell the difference anymore. Because I would rather be unemployed and broken than continue being someone I don't recognize in the mirror. He's staring at me like he's never seen me before. You're serious? Completely. Isabella. He shakes his head. You can't throw away your career. Not for me. Not for this. I'm not throwing it away. I'm choosing a different path. One where I don't have to lie to people to help them. Where I can actually be the person I pretended to be with you. Someone who sees humanity in everyone, even the ones who've made terrible choices. You're a fucking fool. Probably. But I'm done being a liar. Something shifts in his expression. The anger is still there, but underneath it, something else. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. You really did love me, he says quietly. Not the operation. Not the profile. Me. Yes. And you destroyed your life for it. No, I destroyed your life. Mine is just collateral damage. He laughs bitterly. We're quite the pair, aren't we? Both of us sacrificing everything. Both of us convinced we're doing the right thing. Both of us ending up in our own prisons. I'm not in prison. Aren't you? His eyes hold mine. Guilt is just another kind of cage, Isabella. And from where I'm sitting, you're locked in it just as surely as I'm locked in here. The truth of his words hits me like a physical blow. I don't know how to fix this, I whisper. I don't know how to make it right. You can't. That's the point. Some things can't be fixed. They can only be survived. Then how do we survive this? He's quiet for a long moment. Then, I meant what I wrote. I do forgive you. I'm angry as hell. I'm hurt in ways I didn't know were possible. But I also understand. You made an impossible choice. And you chose what you thought was right. I can't fault you for that, even if it destroyed me. Tears spill down my cheeks. Dante? But here's what you need to understand. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean we go back to what we had. It doesn't mean I'm not still devastated by what you did. It just means I'm choosing not to let that devastation become hatred. I know. Do you? He leans forward as far as the chains allow. Because part of me suspects you came here hoping for absolution, hoping I'd tell you it was all okay, that your guilt was misplaced, that you made the right choice, and we can both move on with clear consciences. No, I came here knowing none of that is true. I came here to... I stop, swallow hard. I came here to say goodbye, really goodbye, not the way it happened before, with you being dragged away and me hiding in the shadows, but face to face, the way we should have from the beginning. Understanding dawns in his eyes. This is closure for you, for both of us, because we're never going to see each other again after today. You're going to spend the rest of your life in here, and I'm going to spend the rest of mine trying to be someone better than I was. And you thought, what? That we could have one final conversation and then part as friends? Enemies? What exactly are we, Isabella? The question hangs between us, heavy with possibility and pain. I don't know, I admit. Maybe we're two people who loved each other in impossible circumstances, who hurt each other because there was no way not to, who represent the worst and best of each other simultaneously. You always did have a way with words, but there's no bite in it, just exhaustion. I stand slowly. I should go. Yeah, you should. But neither of us moves. We just stand there, separated by a table and chains and the weight of everything we did to each other. Dante, I say finally, if I could go back, don't. Don't tell me you'd do things differently. Because we both know you wouldn't. You'd make the same choice. Because you believe in duty and justice and the rule of law. Because you're not the kind of person who can compromise on her principles, even for love. You're right. I would make the same choice. But I'd hate myself more for it. He smiles sadly. At least you're honest now. I walk to the door. My hand is on the handle when he speaks again. Isabella? I turn. Thank you. For coming. For telling me the truth. For... He stops. Swallows. For seeing me. Even if it was all mixed up with lies and agendas and impossible situations, you saw me. And that meant something. It still does. Fresh tears blur my vision. You meant everything to me. You still do. And I'm so sorry I destroyed that. So am I. The words are simple, final. The ending we've been circling since the beginning. I should leave. Should walk out and never look back. Should let this be the last time I see Dante Salvatore. But I can't. Not yet. Because there's one more thing. One final truth that's been building inside me since the moment I walked into this room. One last revelation that will change everything. I turn back to face him fully. And I take a deep breath. There's something else you need to know, I say quietly. Something I haven't told you. Something I haven't told anyone. He watches me warily. What? The reason I really came here today. The truth underneath all the other truths. Isabella, I'm pregnant. The words drop into the silence like stones into still water. Ripples spreading outward, changing everything. Dante goes absolutely still. For a moment, I think he didn't hear me. Then I see his face. Shock morphing into disbelief. Morphing into something I can't read. What did you say? I'm pregnant. 11 weeks. I found out a month ago, after you were transferred here. He's standing now. Chains rattling. How is that possible? The usual way. That night in the holding facility, before everything fell apart. I can't finish the sentence. The memory is too raw, too precious, too contaminated by what came after. You're certain? Yes. I've been to 3 doctors. They all confirmed it. He sinks back into his chair like his legs won't hold him. Christ. You're pregnant with my child. Yes. And you came here to tell me this now? After everything? After you destroyed my life and walked away and... He stops. presses his palms to his eyes. God, I don't even know what this is. It's complicated. Complicated. He laughs, but it's a broken sound. That's one word for it. You're carrying my baby. A baby that was conceived when you were lying to me, when you were gathering evidence to lock me away for life. A baby that will grow up with an FBI agent mother and a convicted felon father. I know. Do you? He looks at me. Do you understand what this means? I'm in prison for 30 years to life. I'm never getting out. I'm never going to. His voice cracks. I'm never going to know my own child. The pain in his eyes is unbearable. I'm not telling you this to hurt you more, I say quickly. I'm telling you because you deserve to know. Because you have a right to know. Because even though I destroyed us, even though I can never fix what I broke, you're going to be a father. A father. He repeats the word like he's testing it. I'm going to be a father to a child I'll never meet, never hold, never protect, never. He stops. This is another kind of torture, isn't it? Another way the universe is punishing me for my sins. It's not punishment, but I don't know how to finish that sentence, because in some ways, he's right. This is torture, for both of us. What are you going to do? He asks finally. I don't know. That's part of why I'm here. I needed to tell you before I made any decisions, because even though we're whatever we are, this is your child too. Are you asking my permission? I'm asking what you want, what you think, what you feel. He's quiet for a long time. Then, I want you to keep it. The words come out fierce, desperate. I want you to have this baby. I want there to be someone in the world who carries my blood but doesn't carry my name. Someone who can be better than I was. Someone who gets a real chance. He looks at me. But I want more than that. I want to know them. Talk to them. Tell them about Juliana and the man I tried to be instead of the man I became. He stops. Because we both know it's impossible. I can't bring a child to a Supermax facility. I say softly. They don't allow visits from minors. It's not safe. It's not. I know. He sounds defeated. I know. I'm processing. Trying to figure out how this works. How to be a father from a cage. How to be present for a child who will never know my face except in photographs. How to... Stop. I move closer. Just stop. We don't have to figure it all out right now. We don't have to have all the answers. We just have to... What? Get through this? Survive? Make the best of an impossible situation? He laughs bitterly. Story of our lives. Isn't it? Yes. I say simply. It is. We're both quiet. The weight of this revelation settling over us like snow. I'm scared, I admit. Terrified, actually. I don't know how to be a mother. How to raise a child alone. How to explain that their father is in prison because of me. You'll figure it out. You're brilliant and strong, and you survived years undercover dealing with dangerous criminals. Motherhood will be challenging, but you'll manage. That's different. That was a role. This is real. So was us. At least parts of it. And you navigated that. Barely. And look how it ended. It hasn't ended. Not completely. He looks at me. We're here. Having this conversation. About to bring a life into the world that's half you and half me. That's not an ending. It's something else. What? I don't know. A complication. A connection. A thread that ties us together even when everything else is torn apart. I want to argue. Want to say that a baby doesn't fix what's broken between us. That biology doesn't erase betrayal. But he's not wrong. This child, our child, changes everything. I want to be involved, Dante says suddenly. I know that's complicated. I know it requires trust that we've destroyed. But he takes a breath. I want letters, photos, updates. I want to know when they take their first steps, when they speak their first words, what they like and fear and dream about. I want to be present in whatever limited way I can. That's not enough, I know, but it's something. It's a connection to the world outside these walls. A reason to, he trails off. A reason to what? To believe I'm more than the worst thing I've done. To believe I'm capable of something good, even from here. To believe, he meets my eyes. To believe that maybe some things can be redeemed, even when they're broken beyond repair. My chest tightens. Dante? I don't expect forgiveness from this child. When they're old enough to understand who I am and what I did, they'll make their own choice about whether to know me. But until then, while they're innocent, I want to try. I want to be the father I never had. The one who shows up, who cares, who loves without conditions. Even from here? Even in chains? Especially from here. Because if I can't be there physically, at least I can be there emotionally. At least I can be the kind of father who writes letters and remembers birthdays and tells stories and his voice breaks. At least I can try to be something other than a monster to my own child. I'm crying now, fully crying, because this conversation is everything I didn't know I needed, everything I was afraid to hope for. Okay, I whisper. Okay? I'll write to you. Send photos. Keep you updated. I take a breath. I'll make sure they know you. Not the version in the newspapers or the criminal record, but you, the real you. The one who loves Dostoevsky and plays chess and tried so hard to be better than his circumstances allowed. Isabella, I owe you that much. I owe our child that much. They deserve to know their father, even if the circumstances are impossibly complicated. He's staring at me like I've given him something precious, something he didn't dare hope for. Thank you, he says quietly. I know you don't owe me anything. I know this is generous beyond what I deserve, but thank you. We stand there, separated by chains and grief and impossible circumstances, but connected by this child, by what we were, by what we might still be, in some small, broken way. I should go, I say finally. I have a doctor's appointment this afternoon. Is everything... Are you and the baby? We're fine. Healthy. Everything looks normal. Relief flashes across his face. Good. That's good. I move toward the door again. This time, I manage to get it open. Isabella? I pause. What are you going to name them? The question catches me off guard. I haven't decided yet. If it's a girl, if you need ideas. He swallows hard. Juliana, after my sister. She would have loved being an aunt. She would have loved you, I think. Fresh tears blur my vision. And if it's a boy? Something that doesn't tie them to my legacy. Something clean. Something that gives them a chance to be their own person. I'll think about it. And Isabella? Yes? I meant what I said. I love you. Even now. Even after everything. Maybe I'm a fool, but there it is. I love you. And I love this child we're about to bring into the world. And somehow, that's going to have to be enough. It's more than enough, I whisper. It's everything. And then I walk out. Past the guards. Down the corridor. Out into the sunlight that feels too bright after the artificial lights of the prison. I sit in my car for a long time, hands on my stomach, tears streaming down my face. Because this is the ending we get, not the one we wanted, not the one we deserve, but the one we earned through our choices and our lies and our desperate, foolish love. And somehow, we have to make it work. For the baby who will grow up knowing their father only through letters and photographs. For Dante, who will spend the rest of his life in a cage. For me, who will carry the weight of what I did every single day. We don't get redemption. We don't get happily ever after. We get this. Complicated, messy, heartbreaking survival. And maybe, just maybe, that's a kind of grace too. But this isn't the end. Not quite. Because there's one more truth. One final revelation that changes everything again. One last piece that neither Dante nor I saw coming. Let me show you what happened next. 3 weeks later, I hadn't planned to return to the prison. Our last conversation had felt like closure. Painful, complicated, but complete. But then I received the letter. Official bureau letterhead. Assistant Director Hammond's signature. Agent Chen. Despite your resignation, you remain bound by your non-disclosure agreements regarding the Salvatore operation. Recent intelligence suggests Salvatore may have withheld information about his organization's activities. We need you to conduct one final interview to confirm our suspicions. This is a mandatory debriefing. Failure to comply will result in immediate revocation of your pension and benefits, as well as potential criminal charges for obstruction. Report to the federal detention facility on Tuesday at 10 a.m. I stared at the letter in disbelief. They were pulling me back in, using bureaucratic threats to force me into one more interview, one more betrayal. I called Marcus. What is this? Hammond's orders. Not mine. Apparently there are gaps in your reports. Things Salvatore might have told you that weren't included in the official debrief. There's nothing. I gave you everything. Then this should be quick. Just go. Answer their questions. And it's done for good. But I knew better. This wasn't about gaps in my reports. This was about control. About the Bureau refusing to let me walk away clean. About one final reminder that I belonged to them. I drove to the prison on Tuesday with a knot of dread in my stomach. This wasn't how it was supposed to end. Not with another interrogation. Another lie. They put me in a different room this time. Smaller. No windows. The kind of place designed for hostile interviews. Dante was already there when I arrived. He looked thinner. More worn. The orange jumpsuit hung loose on his frame. When he saw me, confusion flickered across his face. Isabella? What are you? I'm sorry. I didn't want to come. They ordered me back for one final interview. Understanding and resignation settled over his expression. Of course they did. Can't let me go without squeezing out every last bit of information. Dante? It's fine. Let's just get this over with. But I could see it wasn't fine. Could see the walls going back up. The fragile connection we'd built during our last visit crumbling. A voice crackled over the intercom. Dr. Chen, we're recording. Please proceed with the interview. I looked at the camera in the corner. At the red light indicating active surveillance. Then I looked at Dante. And I made a choice. Mr. Salvatore, I said formally, I'm here to ask you some follow-up questions regarding your criminal organization's structure and operations. His jaw tightened. I have nothing more to say. The Bureau believes you withheld information about your associates, specifically regarding international operations and money laundering networks. The Bureau can believe whatever they want. I've said everything I'm going to say. I pulled out my portfolio, clicked my pen, played the role of FBI agent one last time. Let's start with your overseas accounts, the ones you mentioned during our previous conversations. I mentioned nothing about overseas accounts. Yes, you did. On November 14th. You talked about accounts in the Cayman Islands used to... No, I didn't. His eyes held mine. You're misremembering, Dr. Chen, or you're making things up. Either way, it's not true. He was protecting his associates. Even now. Even after everything. Mr. Salvatore? Agent Chen? He leaned forward. Is that what I should call you now? Agent? Or are we back to the pretense that you're a psychologist? I'm trying to help you. By extracting more information? By adding more charges? By making sure I die in here instead of just rotting? He laughed bitterly. Your help has done enough damage. Thanks. The voice on the intercom crackled again. Agent Chen, get him to confirm the overseas accounts. But I couldn't. Because looking at Dante, at the exhaustion and betrayal and resignation in his eyes, I saw exactly what I'd become. A tool. A weapon. Someone who destroyed people in the name of justice and called it duty. No, I said. Silence. Dante stared at me. What? No, I'm not doing this. I'm not extracting more information. I'm not playing this game anymore. I looked directly at the camera. You want him to confess to overseas accounts? You want details about his organization? Then send someone else. Because I'm done. Agent Chen, the voice said sharply. You're under orders. I resigned. I'm not Agent Chen anymore. I'm just Isabella. And I'm not helping you destroy this man any more than I already have. I stood. Started gathering my things. What are you doing? Dante asked. Walking away. For real this time. No more debriefs. No more interviews. No more using our connection as leverage for the Bureau's cases. They'll come after you. Revoke your pension. Press charges. Let them. It's worth it. Isabella, I turned to face him fully. I'm not going to keep betraying you. Not for money, not for benefits, not for anything. What we had, what we have, it's messy and complicated and probably unforgivable. But it's real, and I'm not prostituting it for the FBI anymore. Something shifted in his expression. You mean that? Yes. Even though it costs you everything? It's not everything. It's just... I stopped. It's just everything I thought I wanted. Turns out what I actually want is to be able to look at myself in the mirror, to look at our child and tell them their mother has some integrity left, to look at you and know I finally chose you over duty. You chose me the moment you told them no. That's more than I ever expected. It's less than you deserve. We stared at each other across the table, and I realized this was the moment, the real ending, not the tearful goodbye, Not the pregnancy revelation, but this. Choosing him when it cost me something real. I should go, I said, before they send security to drag me out. Yeah, you should. I picked up my briefcase, turned toward the door, and that's when I saw it. On the table, half hidden under some papers. A file folder. Not mine. Red classified stamp across the top. I wasn't supposed to see it, but in the chaos of the interview, someone had left it there. And the label made my blood run cold. Salvatore, Giuliana, accident investigation, case closed. My hands moved before my brain caught up. I grabbed the folder, opened it, and saw the truth. Photos, accident reports, witness statements, and, buried at the back, a memo from 7 years ago. FBI internal communication. Subject declined protective custody. Witness protection deemed too risky given family connections. Alternative measures to be discussed. I read it 3 times, then looked up at Dante. He was watching me with confusion. What is that? I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Because suddenly everything made sense. Giuliana hadn't just been killed by the family, she'd been working with the FBI. They'd approached her, tried to flip her, offered protection. And when she refused, when she tried to go it alone, they'd left her exposed. They'd known she was in danger, known the family would come after her, and they'd done nothing. Because letting her die was cleaner than a messy extraction that might blow their larger investigation. Isabella? Dante's voice seemed to come from far away. What did you find? I closed the folder, looked at him, and saw his whole life in a different light. Your sister, I said quietly. She was working with the FBI, or they were trying to recruit her. And when it went wrong, when your family found out, the Bureau abandoned her, let her die to protect their operation. The color drained from his face. That can't be. It's all here. In the file. Witness protection offers, negotiation attempts, and a final memo saying she was too high risk to save. He stood abruptly, chains rattling. Let me see it. Dante, let me see it. I should have said no, should have protected the classified information, should have followed protocol. But I'd just chosen him over the Bureau, so I handed him the folder. I watched his face as he read, watched the shock, the disbelief, the dawning, terrible understanding. They killed her, he whispered. Not my father. The FBI. They approached her, put a target on her back, and then left her to die when it got complicated. I don't think they meant for her to. They left her exposed. They knew she was in danger, and they did nothing. His hands were shaking. 7 years. 7 years I've blamed my father, blamed the family, blamed myself for not protecting her. And all this time, he couldn't finish. Just stood there, gripping the folder, his whole body trembling with rage and grief. And I understood. Not just his pain, but the terrible symmetry of it. The FBI had killed his sister, and then I, an FBI agent, had come into his life, gotten close to him, made him trust me, and betrayed him. I'd recreated his deepest trauma without even knowing it. Dante, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Of course you didn't. His voice was hollow. Because the Bureau doesn't tell its foot soldiers about collateral damage, about witnesses who get burned, about lives destroyed in the name of the greater good. He looked up at me. You were doing the same thing they did to Giuliana, getting close, building trust, and then using that trust to destroy me. It's not the same, isn't it? He threw the folder down. You used my feelings for you, used my confession about my sister, used every vulnerable moment I gave you, and you call it justice. You call it duty, but it's just destruction wrapped in a badge. You're right, I said. You're absolutely right, and I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry that I can't. And that's when I did it. I crossed the room in 3 steps, and I slapped him. Not hard, not violent, but sharp, real. A physical manifestation of all the anger and grief and guilt that had been building between us. His head snapped to the side, his cheek bloomed red, and when he looked back at me, I saw something break behind his eyes. You were FBI, he said slowly. The whole time, every moment, every touch, every conversation, every, I love you. His voice cracked. You were FBI? Yes. And you're carrying my baby? Yes. And the Bureau destroyed my sister? Yes. And now you're here, telling me all of this. Why? To absolve yourself? To make yourself feel better? To tell you the truth. The words came out fierce. All of it. Every ugly piece. Because you deserve to know. Because I'm done lying. Because even if you hate me, even if you never forgive me, you deserve the whole truth. He stared at me, and I saw it happen in real time, the final pieces clicking into place. The complete picture of who I was, and what I'd done, and what it meant. You're not here for the bureau, he said slowly. That letter, that mandatory interview, you refused. You chose me over them. Yes, but it's too late. The damage is done. I'm here for life. Your career is over. My sister is still dead, and we're having a baby that will grow up with all of this. He gestured at the room, the chains, the folder, all of this horror as their legacy. I know. So what now? What happens now? And I realized I didn't have an answer, because there was no good answer. No path forward that didn't involve pain and sacrifice and impossible choices. I don't know, I admitted. I just know I had to tell you. All of it. The truth about me, about the bureau, about your sister, about what they did and what I did and how it's all connected in this terrible, tragic way. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached up and touched his cheek where I'd slapped him. Why did you hit me? Because I'm angry. At you. At me. At the bureau. At the world that put us in this position. I stopped. At the fact that I love you, and I destroyed you. And those two things exist simultaneously, and I don't know how to reconcile them. You can't reconcile them. That's the point. Some things can't be fixed or reconciled or redeemed. They can only be endured. Then how do we endure this? He looked at me with those storm-gray eyes that had haunted me since the day we met. I don't know, Isabella. I really don't know. We stood there in that terrible room, with the classified folder between us and cameras recording everything, and the weight of impossible truths crushing us both. And I realized, this was it. This was the real ending. Not closure, not forgiveness, not redemption. Just two broken people standing in the wreckage of what they'd done to each other, trying to figure out how to keep breathing. The door burst open. Guards flooded in. Someone grabbed my arm. Agent Chen, you're coming with us. That's classified material. You're in serious trouble. But I didn't care, because I was looking at Dante, and he was looking at me. And in his eyes, I saw something I never expected. Not hatred, not forgiveness, but understanding. He understood why I did what I did, just as I understood why he couldn't forgive me. Just as we both understood that love and betrayal could coexist, creating something too complex to name. I'll write to you, I called as they dragged me toward the door. About the baby. About everything. I promise. He didn't respond. Just stood there in his chains, touching his cheek, watching me go. And as the door closed between us, I heard him say, so quietly I almost missed it, goodbye, Isabella. Not Dr. Morelli, not Agent Chen, just Isabella. The woman he'd loved, the woman who'd destroyed him, the mother of his child. All of it true, all of it real. All of it impossibly, devastatingly ours. I'm sitting in a park, one hand on my swollen belly, when the baby kicks for the first time. It's late afternoon. Golden light filters through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, children are laughing, and my phone buzzes with a notification. New message from Salvatore, Dante, federal inmate Sub 847392. I open it with trembling hands. Isabella, thank you for the photos. She's beautiful. And she has your eyes. I've been thinking about what happened, that last conversation, the slap, the truth about Juliana, all of it. And I've realized something. I forgive you. Again. Finally. Completely. Not because you deserve it. Not because what you did was right. But because holding on to anger and betrayal would poison the one connection I have to the world outside these walls. You and our daughter. You named her Juliana. When I saw that in your last letter, I cried for the first time since my sister died, because it means you see me, the real me, not the criminal or the target or the case file, but me. I'm never getting out of here. We both know that, and I've made peace with it. This is where I'll spend the rest of my life, paying for my crimes and my choices. But I'll do it knowing that somewhere out there, a little girl carries my sister's name and my blood and your courage. that she'll grow up free of the empire and the violence and the legacy that destroyed me. That's enough. It has to be. I love you. I probably shouldn't. I probably shouldn't admit it, but there it is. I love you. I love our daughter. And I'm grateful, even for the pain, even for the betrayal, because all of it led to her. Be happy, Isabella. Give Juliana the life I never had. And sometimes, when she asks about me, tell her I tried. Tell her I wasn't perfect, but I tried to be better than my name. That's all any of us can do. Dante. I read the letter 3 times. Then I press it to my chest and cry. Not from sadness, not exactly, but from the weight of it all. The impossible beauty and tragedy of loving someone you destroyed, of being loved by someone you betrayed, of finding redemption not in grand gestures or happy endings, but in survival, in connection, in the complicated truth of 2 broken people trying to be better than their worst moments. Baby Juliana kicks again, stronger this time, and I whisper to her, to this little life that somehow came from all this wreckage, your father loves you. He'll never hold you, never read you bedtime stories in person, never teach you to ride a bike or walk you down an aisle. But he loves you, completely, impossibly, the way the best parents do, wanting nothing for you except freedom and joy and a life unburdened by their mistakes. I place both hands on my belly, feel her moving, feel the future taking shape inside me. And your mother? Your very flawed, very broken mother. She loves you too. Enough to have made the hardest choices. Enough to have lost everything. Enough to keep going even when it hurts. The sun sets. The park empties. And I sit there, one hand on my daughter, the other holding a letter from a man in a cage, thinking about endings. This isn't the ending we wanted. It's not redemption or justice or love conquering all. It's messier than that. More real. It's 2 people who hurt each other in ways that can never be fully healed, choosing to love anyway, to forgive anyway, to survive anyway. It's complicated and painful and impossibly beautiful. It's us. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough.